Hello, and welcome back to Ben's Rankings, Reviews, and Reactions. Today's a big day. We've got our first official ranking video going up on the board. And for this first official video, I've decided to jump into the world of film. Today I'm going to be doing a ranking of the 10 feature-length films that have been directed by Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino is someone who I would consider a top 10 director of all time. I'm a longtime fan of his work. I think his films stand out to me because of their style, the music, amazing dialogue, dark humor, and very gruesome action sequences. Tarantino is also a fantastic writer, and I feel like he has a very unique directorial voice. I feel that all of his films benefit from rewatches as well, just because there's so much to offer, and I consider them very tightly packed. And yeah, for this list, everything that I'm going over, I've seen at minimum 3 or 4 times, and at most 15 to 20 times. So let's just jump right into it. And just for the record, there will be some mild spoilers for each of these films as I discuss them one by one. I think that the entire filmography is super impressive, with the exception of my number 10 pick, which is 2007's Death Proof. So Death Proof is definitely the odd one out for me. I really don't have a ton to say about it. I have tried several times to like this film, but by the time the credits roll, I'm not really left with that same feeling that I am for, literally every other Tarantino project. Maybe that's due in part to the fact that this is kind of like a slasher hybrid genre, which is typically not in Tarantino's wheelhouse. Yeah, it's hard to say. It just doesn't really feel like his other movies. And I'm not trying to say that this is a bad movie, but maybe I just feel like it's a bad Tarantino movie. There's definitely some great sequences in this film, but as a whole, I just find it mostly forgettable, and a bit of a hot take as well. But when it comes to the Grindhouse double feature that Death Proof is a part of, alongside Planet Terror by Robert Rodriguez, I actually much prefer Planet Terror. I think Kurt Russell is great, as he typically is in everything, but yeah, honestly, this is just an easy last place pick for me. Okay, from this point on now, I can safely say that I really enjoy every remaining movie on this list. So yeah, that brings us to our number 9 spot. And coming in at number 9, we have 2015's The Hateful Eight. Despite loving the Western genre and really being able to appreciate a good mystery element in just about any type of story, I think that The Hateful Eight ranks a little bit lower for me just because its runtime doesn't feel as justified as Tarantino's other films. There's definitely some great tension building moments and good payoffs that I feel are slightly offset by some inconsistent pacing, although I do have to say that the entire cast is very much spot on in this film. There are also some good twists and surprises laced throughout this movie, but I just can't help but feel like several sequences or scenes altogether could have been removed or shortened in some way. Yeah, I just feel like it could have used maybe half an hour total of cut material. To me, the standout performances in this film go to Samuel L. Jackson, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Walton Goggins. I also have to give a huge shout out to the original soundtrack that is done by Ennio Morricone, the titular musician when it comes to Western film composition. Yeah, having him do an original score I know was probably a huge deal for Tarantino, and it is one of the better elements of this film. And memorable moments for this film would have to be the truth about the Lincoln letter, the poisoned coffee, and of course the flashback that reveals all about the setup for the plot in this movie. Alrighty, so moving on to the number 8 spot on this list, we have 1997's Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown is a very stylish movie with a wide cast of eccentric characters. Lots of exciting stuff on display here, including smuggling, backstabbing, and a high-stakes transfer of money with many different parties involved. The film has a bright and colorful vibe that's offset by all the lies and plotting that go on between the characters. And it's actually also the only Tarantino work to be based on another work of fiction, that being the novel Rum Punch by Elmore Leonard. Standout performances to me are Pam Grier, Robert De Niro, and Robert Forster. Another big plus is you've got this awesome, funky soundtrack. I especially love the use of Bobby Womack's Across 110th Street. And memorable moments from this film would have to be Jackie and Ordell's standoff in her apartment, which pretty much gets the plot going. Lewis and Melanie's altercation in the parking lot following the heist, and finally Max's decision to not leave with Jackie at the end of the film. All right, coming in at the number 7 spot, we have Tarantino's debut film, which is 1992's Reservoir Dogs. This is a film that follows the chaotic aftermath of a heist gone wrong. It is a crime thriller that moves very quickly and pulls no punches at all. And it's also got this really effective overhanging question of who's who throughout the film. That's really entertaining. You've got a great combination of characters who are coming from all types of criminal backgrounds, with the exception of one among them who is a cop that is directly related to this specific heist going so wrong. I also really like the detail that has these characters keeping their real names from each other. Not only does it make sense for the plot and the specific heist, but it also does a really good job of kind of preventing the characters from trusting each other, which is a key piece of this plot as it unfolds. And yeah, besides that, another thing I love about this movie is you've just got so much of that signature Tarantino dialogue that can often be random and off-topic plot-wise, but it also feels exactly like how people talk in real life. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just something that Tarantino has a knack for, and it's on full display here. Standout performances here will go to Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, and Lawrence Tierney. I'm also just a really big fan of how gritty this film is, and as far as debuts go, it really is quite confident. Memorable moments from this film include the back and forth that goes on between Mr. Pink and Mr. White when they rendezvous at the warehouse, the Mexican standoff at the end, as well as the big reveal as to who was responsible for ratting out the job. And finally, of course, I can't not mention the stuck in the middle with you scene. All right, coming in at the number 6 spot, we have the most recent directorial release from Quentin Tarantino, which is 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is a film that uses a background of true events and creates a bit of an alternate history, although most of the film is following fictional events that are kind of set alongside that in the same time period. This is a movie that also pays a ton of homage to the film industry as a whole, with endless nods, references, and respect paid to what is known as the golden era of Hollywood. As far as Tarantino movies go, I also feel like this film is a bit more unique as far as the pace and the story that it's trying to tell. And I would also say that it has probably the best payoff of any of his movies, with a wildly chaotic and hilarious final act. The setting of this film is beautifully crafted. The attention to detail is really admirable. And I think you can just really feel watching this movie how much it meant to Tarantino. As usual, you've got plenty of great characters, dark humor, long dialogue scenes. And this film also does some interesting meta-layered commentary. And I just really like the idea of watching actors, play actors, play actors, play characters. So that's just great, super entertaining. Standout performances go to Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margaret Qualley. I also particularly love the character arc of Rick Dalton, going from being on the brink of irrelevancy, how he copes with that, finding success in a career overseas, just all of it. Fantastic character. Most memorable moments from this film include the young actress helping Dalton work his way through one of his scenes, the entire Spawn Ranch sequence, and the entire ending, from the point in which the acid-laced cigarette gets smoked until the credits roll. Okay, now coming in at number 5, we have 2004's Kill Bill Volume 2. This follow-up to Volume 1 has us continuing alongside the bride on her quest for revenge. We also have 3 more antagonist characters that are brought to the forefront as the remaining kills on her list. This film dials back the martial arts sequences in favor of heavier dialogue, character insights, and plot revelations, but there's still plenty of fantastic action to be had. Similar to Part 1, here we have a story that jumps around from past to present and continues to peel back the layers surrounding the bride's journey up until this point. And the film spans a wide variety of settings and situations and seems to take away the upper hand that the bride seemed to have so often in part one, where she just feels completely unstoppable. So part two mixes things up a bit there. I also particularly love the characters in volume two compared to volume one. Yeah, I just love all of the little mysteries and background elements that surround each member of the Deadly Viper assassination squad. To me, the best thing about this film is Bill. I think that Bill's dialogue, his motivations, his on screen presence are all absolutely phenomenal. And that's largely in part due to the fact that we don't really see Bill at all in the first movie. I think you actually only get a couple of lines of dialogue without ever seeing his face, so it's just super effective. The payoff there is amazing. I love every scene that Bill is involved in, and I would actually go so far as to say that he is probably one of my favorite antagonists, period, in all of film. Standout performances here go to Uma Thurman, David Carradine, and Michael Madsen. Also, like part one, you've got the RZA handling all of the music for these movies. Happens to be my favorite hip hop producer of all time, so I just think that he did an incredible work on these films, and I really can't think of a better fit, actually. Most memorable moments in this film would have to be Bill turning up at the wedding rehearsal, the whole sequence of the bride's training with Pai Mei, and finally that little standoff shortly after the bride learns that she's pregnant, where she's chatting back and forth with the shotgun assassin. Alrighty, now coming in at the number 4 spot, we have 2012's Django Unchained. This is a Western that tells the story of a slave-turned-bounty hunter whose single goal is to be reunited with his wife. He does so with the help of the fantastic character Dr. King Schultz, a dentist/bounty hunter. And on their quest, there are many moments of action, comedy, and borderline horror. The film's subject matter is obviously very dark, but to offset that, you've got many satisfying moments of justice being dealt to a wide array of evil characters. I'm a big fan of the Western trope of a legend in the making, and Django really embodies that as he learns from and eventually surpasses Dr. Schultz in his craft as a bounty hunter. Besides that, you've got the incredible villain of Calvin Candy, who's given ample screen time to kind of shock and appall the viewer before that final deal and sequence and justice being dealt, like I mentioned before. It's really, really sweet to watch it unfold every single time. And then alongside that, you've also got the amazing secondary villain in Steven. On that note, I would love to see Leonardo DiCaprio playing more animated villains like Candy, because he just did such an incredible job. But yeah, I think this is a fun movie. I think it's a satisfying movie. It's got incredible action sequences, and it's full of this really punchy dialogue that has a ton of attitude and delivery. It's great. Standout performances here go to Leonardo DiCaprio, Christoph Waltz, and Samuel L. Jackson. I also love the set pieces and landscapes that really help this feel like an epic Western. But alongside that, you've got a really interesting soundtrack. So it includes classics that you would see in a Western, like the previously mentioned Ennio Morricone. But you've also got Jim Croce, Rick Ross, John Legend, Beethoven. Like it's just such a ridiculously varied soundtrack, but somehow it works really, really well. Most memorable moments in Django Unchained would have to be the finding and identifying of the Brittle brothers, Dr. Schultz killing a town sheriff in front of the entire town, and everything from the arrival at Candyland onwards. It's just, there's too much good stuff there to pick just one small scene. And we have now made it into the top 3. So without further ado, at our number 3 spot, we have 2003's Kill Bill Volume 1. This is an amazing film that kicks off the bride's tale of revenge. In this movie, you've got incredible action sequences, martial arts, swordplay, mysterious questions, and slow building character development. Despite not having nearly as many puzzle pieces put together as Volume 2, Volume 1 still has you riding alongside the bride from the get-go as the story kicks off, and it's told in that classic Tarantino chapter style that is also, of course, non-linear. Vernita Green and O-Ren Ishii stand as the two main targets on the bride's list in this film, and to go with each of them, you have amazing showdowns, one to start the film and one to end the film. I think that as the viewer, you very quickly learn that you are in for an experimental, creative, and off the wall kind of action movie. And the path of bloodshed leads us around the world while slowly revealing what this team of assassins did when they took everything from the bride. As usual, the music, comedic moments, and dialogue are all on point here, but you've got an extra dash of darkness and intrigue as you have the bride who has basically come back from the dead to unleash this unstoppable force. The standout performances here go to Uma Thurman, Lucy Liu, and Sonny Chiba. Again, as mentioned previously, you've got the one and only RZA working on the soundtrack here. I also love the experimentation with sound beyond just the music. For example, the siren that goes off when the bride locks eyes with one of her targets, the bleeping of her real name throughout the movie, and also, of course, your classic punching and whooshing sound effects that you get from martial arts films. Most memorable moments in Kill Bill Volume 1 would have to be the fight with Vernita that kicks off as soon as she opens her front door, the finding and convincing of Hattori Hanzo to create another sword and come out of retirement, and everything that happens from the fight with the Crazy 88 onwards. All right, we've made it to the number 2 spot. So our runner-up on this ranking is going to be 1994's Pulp Fiction. If I had to say that there was a single film that convinced me of the filmmaking prowess of Quentin Tarantino, it would have to be Pulp Fiction. It was definitely revolutionary for me when I saw it. It had felt like I'd never really seen anything like it before, and you've really got every signature Tarantino element on display in the best possible form. You've got a wide range of characters. You've got multiple intertwining plot lines and relationships. You've got nonlinear storytelling that jumps all over the place. And you've also got so much style and confidence happening on screen that it feels like you're watching something that's an elevated experience beyond just your regular movie. That signature chapter style that I mentioned for Tarantino is at its most effective in this movie, I feel like, just because each of the unique stories that are going on here kind of work on their own, but they're also heightened by the fact that they call back to one another, and by the end you realize play into this one overall strange story of a couple of days in LA. There is no single protagonist in this film, but the cast is absolutely perfect. You've got a wide variety of quirky yet likable characters who end up in this pressure cooker of a plot together. The variety of settings and situations is ridiculous at times. Like, there's a heavy element of absurdism on display in this film. And yeah, as far as writing elements go, he's at the top of his game when it comes to the dialogue that's on display here, the little reveals and twists and turns, and the way in which connections are forged between the story. It feels masterful. There are scenes that are suspenseful, hilarious, depraved, and exhilarating. And it's also interesting watching a film like this, and I found myself not really be rooting for anyone in particular, but I more so felt like I was watching dominoes fall. But yeah, I genuinely feel like there is nothing like Pulp Fiction, and I don't think there's ever going to be anything like it. Standout performances here go to Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, and Bruce Willis. And what's really special about Pulp Fiction's soundtrack, among all of the other great Tarantino soundtracks, is how tonally perfect it is. What I mean by that is tone in the sense of when music is used or which scenes are used to match certain songs. When it all comes together, I think pound for pound, this is the best overall Tarantino soundtrack, just because of how good the timing is, if that makes sense. And as far as memorable moments go, it's really, really difficult for me to pick 3 in the way I did for every other film on this list so far, besides Death Proof. I can't do it. I mean, there's just not a single minute of wasted screen time in this film. The whole thing is memorable. And finally, we've made it to the number 1 spot on this list. So, sitting at number 1, we have what I consider to be Quentin Tarantino's magnum opus, and that is 2009's Inglourious Basterds. This film has so much to offer and is so densely packed with amazing performances and dialogue and overall scenes that I would go so far as to say that this is in my top 10 movies all time, any director. You've got the alternate history. You've got the wide cast of characters, including spies, commandos, SS officers, and civilians. You've got amazing tension building. You've got a movie within a movie. You've got extravagant set pieces. You've got a massive master plan consisting of many moving parts. And of course, you've got a lot of brutal violence that is at the same time funny. There's just so much that works well about this movie. I think I would actually be able to make an entire separate video on it. Maybe that's a project for the future, I'm not sure, but I could just talk about this movie for a very long time. All of the performances are absolutely off the charts, especially Christoph Waltz as Colonel Hans Landa. You have one of the best and most paralyzing film introductions ever, in my opinion. You've got layers of character motivations, secrets withheld, and this elaborate master plan that ends up both being a success and a failure, which is really interesting. You've also got dialogue that is enrapturing, less dependent on comedy and cursing like in his other films, but recompensated with this anticipation of disaster at any moment and this very, very high stakes kind of covert situation. The excitement is just endless. It's also a film that moves at a very good pace, but by the time the credits roll, you almost feel like not very much time has gone by at all because it's so immersive. I really wouldn't change anything about this movie. I feel like I can rewatch it anytime, and I just think it's an absolutely massive achievement creatively. Standout performances here go to Christoph Waltz, Brad Pitt, and Melanie Laurent. There's not really anything I can single out in particular as like my favorite element of this film because I feel like everything is exactly where it needs to be. And again, I can't narrow it down to 3 scenes in particular. Like Pulp Fiction, I feel like there was not a single wasted minute in Inglourious Basterds. But I have to give a shout out to what I think is Tarantino's best scene, period, in any of his films. And that would be the entire basement tavern scene with the card game and, everything that happens after that. Well, that's going to be all for the first ranking video, everyone. In the comments, I would love to hear your thoughts on this ranking, but also Tarantino's filmography as a whole. I'd be curious to know how you might rank the Tarantino filmography. I'm curious as to what you like or don't like about these films. Let's just get chatting in the comments. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Please like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for a review coming up as the next video. Take it easy, everyone.